Welcome to our first anchor. If there is one truth I hope you carry with you long after this course ends, it's this: God is faithful. Not sometimes, not when life is easy, not only when things make sense. God is faithful all the time. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important realities of adulthood. Life will disappoint you. People will disappoint you. Plans will disappoint you. But God never will. When we're young, we often imagine life unfolding in a straight line. Graduate, find success, meet the right person, build a career, live happily ever after. But reality rarely works that way. Dream jobs disappear, relationships end, people move away, health struggles emerge, financial challenges arise. Sometimes the future looks very different than what we expected. Disappointment isn't a sign that you failed. It's a normal part of living in a broken world. Every disappointment eventually asks the same question: can God still be trusted? When prayers seem unanswered, when opportunities disappear, when circumstances don't improve, when life hurts, it's easy to begin questioning God's goodness. Many people don't lose faith because life gets hard. They lose faith because they expected life to be easier than God ever promised it would be. One of the most powerful examples of faithfulness comes from the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah watched Jerusalem fall. He witnessed suffering and loss and devastation. Yet in the middle of that pain, he wrote these words that we find in Lamentations 3:22 through 23. Because of the Lord's faithful love, we do not perish, for his mercies never end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Think about that. He didn't write these words after receiving everything he wanted. He wrote them in the middle of heartbreak. Sometimes God's faithfulness is easiest to see when everything else is falling apart. God doesn't merely act faithfully. Faithfulness is part of his character. People change. Opinions change, cultures change, circumstances change, but God remains the same. His promises remain true. His love remains constant. His mercy remains available. His grace remains sufficient. When everything else around us feels uncertain, God's character becomes our anchor. There have been many times where I completely didn't understand what was going on in my life and why God was allowing it. Many times. But one of the times was when our son Tyler was born, and he was developing delayed, and ultimately we took him to a genetic specialist and found out he has what's known as Fragile X syndrome. And when we found that out, I really questioned God. I'd worked in the field of developmental disabilities. I knew what Fragile X was, and some of the toughest individuals I'd ever worked with, in all honesty, had that diagnosis. And I wondered what I had done to deserve this. Why God had brought this kid into my life, and how was I going to raise this kid in my own home? It was one thing to go to work, but I always had this break, and what was it going to be like? And I want to fast forward. Today, Tyler's 19. He still has a lot of life challenges. But God shaped the man I am today through Tyler. He shaped the man I am today through all three of my boys, Austin and Andrew as well. But Tyler, he shaped the very core of my nature. I didn't know I needed Tyler in my life to help me understand how I wasn't in control of this world. Tyler has brought a joy in our family that any other kid, I just don't know that could have done it for me. Tyler is the reason I am who I am today in a lot of ways. Not only in my personality, but also my career was shaped by who Tyler was in regards to me and my family and my learning to better trust in God. I didn't understand what God was doing at the time. But looking back, I can clearly see his faithfulness throughout Tyler's life and my story tied to it. One of the greatest mistakes we make is measuring God's faithfulness by our outcomes. We say, if I get what I want, God is faithful. But what happens when we don't? Biblical faith isn't confidence in a specific outcome. It's confidence in God's character regardless of the outcome. God's faithfulness isn't proven because everything works out exactly as we hoped. God's faithfulness is proven because he remains present through every circumstance. In Daniel chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood before a king who threatened their lives. Their response to me is remarkable. It's still one of my favorite all-time Bible stories. They say, our God can save us. But then they said, even if he does not. That is mature faith. Faith that trusts God whether circumstances improve or not. Faith that says, God is good, God is faithful, and I trust him no matter what happens next. One of the best ways to strengthen your faith is to remember. Think about your life. Think about the moments when God provided, protected, guided, comforted, strengthened. You may not have recognized it at the time, but looking back, you can often see God's fingerprints all over your story. The same God who carried you then will carry you now. Most of God's faithfulness doesn't show in dramatic miracles. It shows up in daily mercies. Even in the midst of our biggest struggles, we get a new day. We find a needed friend. We get unexpected encouragement, strength to keep going, peace in the middle of stress, wisdom for our next step. Every morning, God reminds us that his mercies are new. Every day is evidence of his faithfulness. Let's pause for a moment. I want you to ask yourself, what fear are you carrying today? Maybe it's fear about your future, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. If you need to, pause the video and write it down. But be honest. And then I want you to ask yourself, what would change if I truly believed God was faithful? The challenge for this anchor is simple. Write down one current fear and then surrender it to God. Not once, but every day this week. Whenever that fear returns, remind yourself, God is faithful. God is present. God is working. And God can be trusted. As we close, I want you to remember this. Life will disappoint you. People will disappoint you. Plans will disappoint you. If you don't believe me, ask any adult. They've been disappointed in their life. But here's the thing. As a Christian, you learn God never changes. His love remains. His mercy remains. His promises remain. His faithfulness remains. No matter what season you're facing today, God is worthy of your trust because His faithfulness is greater than your fear. I'll see you in the next lesson as we explore Anchor 2. You are not your success or your failure.